Hello and welcome back, or welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. We have a live show tonight, this afternoon, and we have a very honored and internationally known guest, John Gray. And this is very exciting because we're going to talk about, the theme that I talk about is healing the relationship with money. And I've been focusing recently on the relationship with men and women and how they deal with money. So this is perfect because John has a wonderful new book out and we can talk about this very openly. And we have a live audience. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And thank you to all the staff. Anyway, John, tell us about your new book.
And then she relaxes. And why does she relax? Because the safety to be herself says she's not alone, that she can be herself. And when you feel you're not alone, that you're seen and heard, then help is always available. And when you have that feeling, oxytocin levels shoot up, the stress hormone cortisol goes down. And this is where women, that's why they want a man in their life. And this is what I tell women. You know, we're talking about the work world. What do you need a man for? If you can make money, if you can make more money than a guy even, so why do you need a man? The reason you need a man, you have to feel it inside. The reason you need a man is so you don't have to do it all.
Absolutely.
See, you can do it all, but you use a man so you don't have to do it all.
Yes.
Otherwise, he's going to why do I want to be with her? There's nothing I can do for her. Men want to feel like I did something. You know, I've got a job to do. I wouldn't want to go to a job where they don't appreciate what I have to offer. And they can't appreciate what I have to offer unless they feel a need for that. So women today are going through kind of a crisis. Why do I need a man? And if you don't feel the need for a man, then there's no job opportunity for a man.
That's right. Is there anything else that you want to tell us about?
Blind spots. I mean, we cover one of the blind spots in personal relationship. But just to mention, for our personal relationships to work, we also want to make sure the workplace is a better environment. And, you know, this is going to take many years to completely transform the workplace. But we have to begin from somewhere.
Well, shouldn't we begin with the home first?
Well, I have begun with the home for 30 years, but at the same time, people don't always translate these Mars-Venus ideas into the workplace. And the workplace, it's a little bit different because, see, the rules are different in the workplace, the old rules. The old rules in the workplace is this is not a place for your personal fulfillment. This is time is money, get the job done. When you're off the job, that's when you can have happiness and fulfillment. And that was fine for hundreds of years for men because a man could sacrifice his happiness, could do awful jobs, painful jobs, and push it away and say, suck it up, don't complain, get the job done so you get a result. You bring it home to a woman who goes, I love you. And then he gets his personal fulfillment because this woman has created a home for him, a family for him. She appreciates him. So it gives his life meaning and purpose for all that sacrifice. But as women are in the workplace, they're going, wait a second, we don't like this sacrifice. This is like a creepy place here. There's no personal fulfillment. You know, you hear again and again why women in very high positions don't want higher positions. You know, there's this book, Cheryl Selman's talking about lean in. Women, you know, only 16% of executives, CEOs are women. You need to push in, you need to lean in. Well, we did the interviews with those women who didn't lean in, and we asked why. And the answer is, why would I want to spend an extra 20 hours a week? I'm already making over $100,000. Why do I need to make more by sacrificing my life? They're saying, I have plenty of money to live, so I want a personal life. I don't want to give that much to this business. And that's one of the wisdoms that women bring to the workplace. I was fortunate in my own journey. And you know, I'm very stress-free. I'm 61 years old. I'm not sick. All three of my brothers have heart attacks. One committed suicide. You know, my sister has dementia. Another has Alzheimer's. I'm completely healthy. Now, how did that happen? I'm the same genes. Part of it is my marriage. Is that when I married Bonnie, she said, I will not have children unless you promise to be 50-50. I said, okay, I promise. You promise. Anytime I want you at home to help, you'll do it. I said, okay. And she called on that card again and again and again. So I could not become this workaholic. I'm just not allowed. She had the power. I gave her the power. She says, I don't want to raise kids all by myself. You're going to have to do this.
And
otherwise,
bless her for that.
And bless her for that, because I was forced to find out, to experience the fulfillment of a personal life as opposed to postponing my fulfillment till I retire, which a lot of men, again, it's like postponing your fulfillment till you get home. They're postponing their fulfillment till they retire. And the statistics today, these are real and statistics from life insurance companies, is when a man retires, this is average, this is not every man, but when a man retires, he has 1 year before his first heart attack. Yeah. Now, before they had stents, a man had 3 years before he died. And that was the statistic. Because men need work, and yet we need balance, work and home, balance, home and both those things together. So this is all part of gender intelligence. And as the workplace begins to appreciate, hey, if we can create a work environment that is nurturing to the well-being and happiness and fulfillment of our workers, they will be more productive. Yeah, and that has not been in men's vision. Their thing is get the job done, reward, reward. The one who sacrifices the most gets the biggest reward, who produces the biggest result. If you stay overtime, see, they don't require you to work overtime, but if you stay overtime, then you get more clients and they see you working harder, you get more results, you get the promotions. That's how you get the promotions. So they're not saying you have to work overtime, but that's the message you get.
But that paradigm is shifting.
Yeah, that's the female.
It's great.
It's teamwork, it's quality of life, it's inclusion, it's diversity. These are all female values coming into the workplace. So we need to just become more conscious of them. And then suddenly it happens faster. It's like wake up to what's happening and make it happen more.
Yes, and I love what Dalai Lama says about the Western women changing the world.
Dalai?
Yeah. So, you know.
And what does he say? Go ahead, say it.
Well, he says that the Western women are changing the way the business world is happening.
Oh, clearly. And one of the things is Warren Buffett, more of a prophet to the men in the room than the Dalai Lama.
Warren Buffett.
That's what I'm just about to quote.
The first two things, I don't know.
I'm about to quote it, but go ahead.
I use this in my show, is unconditional love. That's the first.
Well, I'm glad he said that too, but recently I quoted an article. What he said is that there's a bright future for America because up to now we've been using 50% of our potential. The male way of doing things. And with more women in the workplace, we have another 50% potential. And we can begin to experience 100% potential as men and women are working together. And that's what we can look forward to as we grow in a positive intelligence that appreciates those values.
Yes, amen. Definitely. He also says, and having no doubt.
Right?
I don't know. That's, I think, a challenge for a lot of people.
Having no doubt?
Yeah.
Who says that?
Doubt.
Warren Buffett?
Warren Buffett, yeah.
Well, if you know Warren Buffett is just, he'll spend hours reading the textbooks of companies. If you've ever read a company's final statements, you know, before you invest in it, it's just hours and hours of nerd stuff. You know, I'd fall asleep on the third page. He loves that stuff, so he doesn't doubt because he actually comes from, I want to fully research everything before I make a decision. Absolutely. So he has already within him a greater feminine balanced with his masculine. Because when I say women bring this, men bring that, I have both. You know, that's why I've been successful. But part of how I've been successful is a wife who demanded that of me. And by respecting the feminine, my own feminine develops. So I'm not against men becoming more sensitive, more feminine, but not by becoming women.
No.
By respecting women more, it automatically happens. And this is like, most people didn't know that. I certainly didn't know that back in the 70s, 80s when I started this. I was just trying to get men to open up, share your feelings, be everything the women wanted you to be. And then the women would say, I don't want to be married to him. I'm not turned on to him. I love him, but he's like a child. He's so sensitive. I feel like I have to walk on eggshells around him. Women would say, ever since he learned that I feel hurt phrase, I feel like I have to protect him. You know, it's like, what happened to my protector? One woman said to me, gee, I love him, but I want a divorce. I said, why? I didn't realize when I married him, he had so many problems. You know, it's just... Men are not designed to be sharing feelings like this. Otherwise, you tell them, we'll reward you for it. They'll go to town. Men will do whatever women really are wanting. If women said, hey, we're turned on by men who walk on their hands, you'd see in 10 years, men will be having contests who can walk on their hands the most. You know, this is always throughout history, women have been on this kind of pedestal where men will do what it takes to make women happy. And then it goes to an extreme, and then it becomes dysfunctional. That's what happened. So now we're going to higher consciousness within ourselves. My own self demands a balance of masculine and feminine inside of me. That's the challenge of relationships. It's the most challenging thing to stay married today, to have a great relationship, to keep a sex life going, all those things. A lot of people just, it's too much trouble, I don't want to do it, I don't need it. That's their choice. But if you want to experience exuberance and passion and success in your life, intuition, it's finding wholeness within yourself by interacting with somebody else. Because you can, as a foundation, find happiness in yourself, but can you be happy with somebody else and share? That's a real test. And that challenges us to get beyond the big ego inside, to get beyond the I have to be right, to get beyond my little tantrums that I throw, and learn to find that balance. And that's, I see people getting divorced all the time over the stupidest things. Over the stupidest things. You say, what did they say? Little things like that. And I'll just throw up one other idea. I think it's the stupidest thing in the world to have a marriage, 4 children, 3 children, 6 children, to get a divorce because one partner had an affair. What a stupid thing to do. Somebody makes a mistake, and yet it's acceptable today. It's like your get out of jail free card. My husband had an affair, so we're going to end our relationship. My wife had an affair, so I'm going to end the relationship. How about learning the real essence of love, which is not demanding perfection from someone, but learning to find forgiveness, learning to find empathy, learning to find love in our hearts, not demanding perfection of someone. Suddenly we're like so obsessed with sex. It's become such a big thing in this culture, so repressed. And yes, I'm the biggest exponent of monogamy and passionate monogamy. But at the same time, I know the journey that many people go on is sometimes before you can really learn the value of something, you have to make a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. Yes. Now, I'm not saying if your husband's cheating on you all the time, you stay with him. But I help people all the time, 1 or 2 affairs, and they just close their hearts. That's it. I go, are you a fool? Do you demand perfection of everyone? Let's open our eyes here. Let's wake up and find out what love is about. Love is about growing together, helping each other to bring out the best in each other, rather than expecting people to be perfect on their own.
Well, I think maybe we should open this up to some questions.
Sure, that sounds great.
We've got some participants out here that anyone want to ask some good questions to John while we have him here live. If you're thinking about it, please.
Yes.
Okay, Norma.
I think it's important when
put that mic up to Norma.
Yeah,
there we go.
I think it's important when girl-boy meet that they find out as best they can if each other loves themselves, because my understanding is you can only love another to the degree that you love yourself.
It's a wonderful concept, absolutely. I doubt anybody that falls in love is going to be held back by do you love yourself? Because here's where there's a challenge there, and I believe I'm really into what you just said. It's really hard to truly love someone if you don't love yourself. But in the beginning of the relationship, this is where you'll easily be deceived. If you don't love yourself, to be with somebody who seems to love you, you immediately start loving yourself. You go, oh, finally somebody sees me, and you feel really good, you feel great for a while, until they decide one day to say something critical. And then you kind of go, I thought you loved me. You don't love me. And you fall apart and you get all upset and you get defensive because you can't say, oh, they're having a bad day. Let me be more loving to them. Instead, your whole makeup goes, but I depend on you to prop me up and make me feel good. So if you can't do that today, then I crash. So that's where you are able to experience the level of self-esteem and self-love that you have. And personally, my belief, I've written a whole book on this, is you don't really develop self-realization. You can't. Your brain is still developing up to about 27, 28 years old. So that's really where you sort of go into this place where you're able to see who you are separate from other people's thoughts. And that's only if you're enlightened. In the past, that was called enlightenment. Enlightenment would be if all of you decided to get up and leave in the middle of my talk, I would think, oh, they must have had to use the bathroom, instead of, oh, they didn't like my talk. So you can say to a child, I'm not mad at you, it's just your behavior. The child's going to go, no, you're mad at me. If you say, that's bad, but you're not bad, a child is always going to go, no, if I did something bad, I'm bad. It takes a good 28 years of healthy brain development to really build your self-esteem so that when you come home one day and your partner's in a bad mood and they're rejecting you or being critical of you or they just give you a look and you don't like it, you don't suddenly collapse and throw a big tantrum. But instead, you feel like, okay, I still feel good about myself. I'm not dependent on them to feel good about myself. I realize that this is an off day for them, so let me do something nice for them. That's healthy self-esteem. For me, as a teacher, one more example of it was when I was a young teacher, if there was a small audience, I felt like I was not as successful. But the worst experience I ever had was when there was one person in the audience. I would have preferred to be none and I could have left. But that one person was there. And then after the talk, they told me what an awful job I did. So when I went home, all I thought about was that person for weeks. It was just a terrible thing. Later, when I finally got to where I could have an audience, say of 30 people, there would be 2 people in the audience who didn't like the talk. And they always want to run and tell you that. You know, it's like, why would you say this? I'm offended by that thought. You should say this. But other people liked it. When I would go home, it'd be 28 people loved it, 2 people didn't like it. Who am I thinking about all night? Those 2 people who didn't like it. That's a symptom of low self-esteem.
Right.
Now, those people don't like it. I just chuckle and go, well, it's the wrong talk for you. Sorry, but everybody else liked it. That's called high self-esteem.
Well, one thing I learned from Ruiz is not to take things personally.
And that's a challenge. And that's part of why I wrote this book, which is helping to understand the blind spots. In so many ways that men behave, women often take it personally. So let me give you a concrete example of that. You could be working with a team of men and women, 2 guys, 2 women at a table. And once you're getting excited, the guys get excited, it's like they're playing basketball, grabbing the ball from each other to get to sink it. Who's going to have the best idea? I'll build on that. And maybe one woman's joining in, maybe not. And there might be kind of witnessing. They're thinking about all this, they're processing all this information, but nobody's saying, hey, you haven't said anything. What do you think about this? So she feels like, oh, they don't respect me, they don't value me. Why aren't they asking me what I'm saying? Isn't it obvious that I'm not talking? I have something to say? But that's not obvious to men. You see, if there's 4 men at the table and one man's not talking, we ignore him. We don't want to embarrass him and say, Bill, you have nothing to say. You say, I don't have much to say today. So we don't want to embarrass him. We want to save face. So if he's not saying anything, we don't point it out. We assume that if you have something to say, you'll say it. And so when women are often excluded,
that's the male dynamic.
That's the male dynamic.
Yeah,
that's the male. So if a woman can understand that, it makes it easier to not take it personally.
Well, and a woman needs to be more assertive, because I've been in boardrooms and women need to be more assertive in their communication when they're dealing with men. I mean, I learned that.
Yes.
That's what I've dealt with in my business life.
And so the key is it's easier for a woman to be more assertive if she feels that nobody's against her. It's hard to be assertive if you feel people are against you. Then what happens, if you're assertive and you feel people are against you, then you feel confrontive. And some women, I hear this word a lot, well, I have to confront them. How am I going to confront them? I go, if you confront, all you're going to get is resistance.
Yeah,
that's
a negative connotation.
It's a negative,
yeah.
Right. So you always... even in Sheryl Sandberg's book, which is Lean in Me, telling women to push harder, she's explaining something I've been teaching for years, which is women, you want to get ahead, you make men your friends.
Yeah.
Women do not rise up if you make men your enemies. Men resist enemies. They fight you if you're an enemy, but you make them your friends and you ask what you want. That's the key with men.
One thing I've been observing with the communities that I'm dealing with women that are primarily just women, is that the women are like almost too aggressive, and it's I know there's a pendulum that's happening.
That's right.
And it's like, wake up, come on, you don't have to be negative towards men.
Right.
I mean, that's where I'm coming from.
That's right.
And it's like, wait a minute, we're here to play together. We're here to do this together. So
And I think that's the whole idea. Even, Cheryl's book is really popular now, but even there's kind of an undertone of women, we have to get together and rise up, as opposed to women, we need to include men in this conversation. And that's what this is about, which is why I have a woman writing this book, helping me hear those issues that she had, translating it in ways that men could hear, and my issues, helping to translate that into a language where women could understand.
And to me, it's a residual of women not being on a team environment like men are. Men are always, with sports.
Different ways of team. Yeah, men have their growing up with team.
They're growing up with where women have had to shift to be more team-oriented, even though that they like cooperative environment.
Well, what you're saying, if I could clarify there, what you have is women have always been in a cooperative community as opposed to team. Team implies competition. These are a lot of skills that men develop by being on the team that women miss out on, and having team sports helps women to bring that collective awareness in a way that understands the way men do it. Because really, it's not a lot of changing who we have to be. It's really understanding what the others are.
And learning how to communicate.
Yeah.
And that's huge, because communication's an art.
Yes. And often, when it comes to communication, women think Men have to learn how to communicate. And my message is, women, you have to learn how to communicate as well.
Yeah,
okay, it's not like women are better. It's twofold.
No,
I sit there every day watching women destroy their relationships talking to their husbands. And I watch men destroying their relationships by their responses. So it's an art, both sides.
One thing that I learned from, I think, your first book or one of your books is how you say things, the tone of voice.
Oh, huge.
I mean, it's huge. And I learned that years ago from you.
Yep.
And how you present yourself and how you're talking to somebody. It makes a difference with anybody, really. But
it makes a difference in all situations, but then there's certain subtleties with gender, and when we take the time to learn that, it's very key. Even subtleties like in business, I teach women how to ask for support. And I give the example, a woman has got all these, she's like having to fill out the forms at the end of the day, and the guys are coming in and they're giving their forms. And she says to the guys, hey guys, could you bring your forms in? Don't wait till last minute, bring them in early, then I can get home to my kids. And they all go, sure, sure. And then they bring them in late. And she says, I keep asking, they keep saying yes, but they keep bringing them in late. And I said, change one word. Instead of saying, could you do this? Simply say, hey guys, would you do me a favor and bring your forms in early? Don't use could, use would. If you ask a man, would you do something, he's now making a promise, and it activates a different part of his brain that says, okay, if I do that, what would happen if I don't do that? Well, if I do it, then I get credit for it. It literally makes a man think for a moment. And what she said, all she did is change that one word, and now everybody was bringing the things in early, and they felt like, like little kids. I brought it in early for you. See, I did that. It's getting men to remember to do things. One of our gender intelligence tests is who has better memories, men or women. And it's proven, women have better memories. The memory part of your brain is twice as big as a man's. And particularly when you're under stress, like you made a promise, am I going to do it, am I not? When women's stress level increases, blood flow goes to your memory. When a man's stress increases, blood flow does not go to his memory. He's got to focus on what can I do now. He can't remember all of his problems at that time. He's got to jump into action.
well, that's how those neuroconnectors.
It's all about the neuroconnectors.
Yeah,
I mean, it's amazing. We are designed to perfectly complement each other or be enemies if we don't understand how those forces can come together and combine.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that, I know you have helped thousands of people, John, and I commend you for your passion and your purpose, because I know that you have helped so many people, and you've helped me understand the male beast, the male man,
Well, mailman.
Hey, well, at least I got you to laugh.
I was a paper boy as a kid. I was delivering the good news, so I'll still continue delivering it.
Well, it's the good news, and it's it's having the desire to want that. And I've been in your books for years.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I totally appreciate it.
What I will say about my new book, which is really fun, as a writer, you write a book until you're sick of it, and then you have to edit it, and you have to read it again, and then they edit it, look at it, you have to read it again, you have to look at the final copy. I gave it some distance before the final copy, and then I read it again. I just to let myself be like as if I'm reading it the first time.
So did that take the 2 years?
Well, part of it. And I truly I felt such an increase in my own gender intelligence, having stepped back. I felt so much more compassion for women in the workplace, what women are going through. And it's not as though men don't have the potential for the compassion. We just have to be approached in the right way.
Do you think you had more compassion for yourself through this?
No, I have more compassion for women. We have it so much
okay.
easier as men. There's just no doubt about it. I mean, men can whine and complain, but we have it so much easier than women. And I can physiologically prove it. But if you start to attack men have no compassion. Mm-hmm. It just goes away. If you bring in the Dalai Lama again, he'll talk about in Tibetan tradition, they say men have the compassion and women have the wisdom. Yeah. And I truly experienced that. When I read this book, I felt such compassion, and I'm reflecting on all the wisdom that women can bring into the workplace on how to make it a better place. I mean, this happens in my home. My wife makes our home such a better place. My wife makes all of our relationships. She says, oh, we should have a party. We should do this. You didn't send a thank you note to that person. You need to send a thank you note to that person. Would you know that's one of the best sales techniques you can ever do? Is somebody has an interaction, you thank them for their service, for buying your product. They're going to buy your product next. Men don't think of that stuff. So there's a relational intelligence that women just come from that men often don't think. Now, we can learn it. So once a man learns it, he has it. Some men who are very successful already have it. And they often had good relationships with their mother, so they learned a lot of that stuff. And to be successful, they also had good relationships with their dad, which gave them the ambition and the drive to make the money, as well as the mother who's sort of teaching the values of relationship, reciprocity, fairness, giving everybody a share, asking questions, the kind of things I'm talking about.
Are there any more questions? Give him the
Let's
mic.
get the mic, hand the mic there. Okay.
Yeah, the terms that come to mind for me are, one of the main components of life are money, food, and sex. And yet financial intelligence, gender, or, relationship intelligence,
money, food, and sex, okay?
or preventative health intelligence are really not taught in the schools. So kids come out, they go through an environment in which they create cultures that are weird. High school culture is really strange. And then they come out and they're ready to have a relationship, or they're in a relationship already. Wouldn't it be good if you could get this kind of intelligence,
awaken that intelligence.
Awaken that intelligence.
Definitely our school curriculum is going in the wrong direction. It's no longer just about the ABCs and the addition. That needs to be a part of our education, and social skills, emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, and gender intelligence can be taught at every level along the way. Gender intelligence is a little tricky. It really doesn't, the need for it doesn't really develop fully until we get into our adult years. Often the first thing we need is emotional intelligence in the earlier years.
Well, and financial intelligence.
Oh yeah, of course, to learn the finance.
Because
yeah, I appreciate that.
Most relationships, from what I've heard, one of the big reasons they break up is difficulties in, they're incompatible with relationships.
Well, that again, when people talk about the challenges in relationships, when finances is the real challenge, because it's one of the biggest challenges, I always come down to it's not the finances, it's how you're talking about the finances. It's a communication skill, and we talked about at the beginning, not that I can summarize it with one point, but the overview is that men do tend to be more risk takers, because taking risk actually lowers stress for a man. I could be stressed and go drive my car a little fast, and actually I relax. Most women don't relax in that case. When women feel safe and secure, their stress levels go down, so they tend to be a little bit more, want to ask more questions. And so you get that dynamic, improving communication, then we value the differences coming together. And I have so much to say on that, but our time is limited, so thank you for the point. Clearly, financial intelligence we need to develop.
And that's what my show is about, is
Yeah,
the financial intelligence. Your information is like the foundation. So I really appreciate you sharing and your questions. I think we're coming down to the end, and I hate to close this because this information is so valuable. And again, I thank you for the years of wisdom that you've shared, because it's certainly helped me, and I know others. So, and thank you, audience, for being here and participating. And John.
Thank you all. Thank you all. It's been fun.
Yeah, you've been on, and it's great. And I just want to say thank you.
If we can just keep thinking win-win for both men and women, we will have a better world. It's opposite forces coming together is what creates life, and it will create a better world and fulfill our dreams of a better world.